Ladies and gentlemen, I am Estuary, the game is World of Warships, and welcome back to Estuary. It is in standard battle mode for today's game. Today, by the way, is the 19th of October 2016, and that is significant because patch 5.13 has gone into its release cycle. The Americans got it today, we Europeans get it tomorrow, assuming there are no game-breaking hiccups. And of course, that means the Americans have got the British light cruiser line. Yet they got it 24 hours before we did. Feel free to moan at Wargaming about that. Fine by me, they get to discover all the game-breaking bugs if there are any. Or at least if there are any that got past the test cycle. But, well, you know me, I'm a little bit impatient. I play destroyers for heaven's sakes. If it's less than 35 knots, I'm not really interested. And yes, I was one of those kids who rattled their presents before Christmas, so I toggled over to the US server and fired up my account over there and had a bit of a go with the first two Royal Navy cruisers, the Black Swan class sloop, technically it's not a cruiser, and the, well, you can argue this one. Strictly speaking, it's a town class cruiser, the 1910 series, the HMS Weymouth. Although the actual class designation is a bit more complicated than that. However, I did not have that good an experience with them. Maybe it's just me. I am hating the Weymouth. In particular, I'm not liking its 6-inch guns. The ship is fairly hard to citadel, unlike the Black Swan, which loves to take it in the citadel. My first game with her, I ran 24 regular hits and 7 citadels against other Black Swans. So after a few hours of, I won't say misery, but dissatisfaction and several cups of tea, I came over to the European server and pulled out Kamikaze-R, and here we are in Estuary, where my cunning plan to scout the centre has just gone horribly wrong thanks to the ranger on the enemy team. Dive bombers come down. Luckily, I popped my damage control way too fast. If he'd had torpedo bombers, I'd have been in trouble. However, look at his squadron loadout. 2 dive bombers, 2 fighter squadrons. That's the air superiority load. No torpedo bombers in play on the enemy team. So yeah, got a little bit lucky there. Over on the left flank, I'm just going to unshackle the camera for a second. Keegan in the Minimap has got a clear line of sight down into the enemy's cap circle. He can see a couple of heavies moving our way, but he can't see anything coming his way, which means the lemming train is coming round the right. Enemy aircraft come back over, fire up Kamikaze's anti-aircraft, which for the record is 2 guys with rifle caliber machine guns, so don't expect anything of that, and I'm not disappointed either. Relock the camera for a second. And having abandoned the attempt to scout the centre channel, I decided to move over onto the eastern flank and support the rest of the cruisers. Billy's taken a couple of big hits in his Kirov, so he's going to need a few seconds to get his head back in the game and sort himself out. So, dump some smoke, lay some cover. This would work better in a US destroyer, but it'll do the job for the moment. That's him nicely cloaked and invisible. Buys him about 90 seconds or so to come up with a new plan and decide what he's going to do from there. Don't need to worry about him for a while. So, take stock. Rather like German fighters in most World War II flight sims, Japanese destroyers are very much a case of make your attack pass, dump your torpedoes, pull out, then take a coffee break or a tea break, depending on your preference. I won't completely denounce the heathens. And reassess what your torpedoes are achieving and what you're going to do. In this case, I'm lining up on the furry Takao of Vulcan 96. Now, the UI has gone a little bit squiffy here. I was waiting for the TDC bearing to indicate that he was going to give me a shot just as he cleared this island. I'm also being a little bit cagey because I know that Nicholas is there as well. He spots me, I am probably going to have a world of pain coming my way. 7.6 kilometers, just edging firing solution range on the Furutucker. You can see the inner white circle on the minimap indicating the limit of my torpedo's travel. However, this is a very, very dicey shot, but take it anyway, because it should intercept him just as he clears it, then completely misjudge my turn and slam face first into the island. Oopsie. Next problem is that while I'm losing speed and fumbling my escape, the rest of the enemy team is also closing in. It's not quite the lemming train I was worried it was going to be, but that Nicholas is getting awfully, awfully close. I have got 500, 400, 300 metres of safety, 200 metres. Get back into mobility, just inch away, just clear his detection, more to the fact that he turned tightly and I didn't reverse too far up than everything else, and then run myself aground again. Yay! I'm going to have so much fun explaining this to the insurance company afterwards. Still, Kamichin might forgive me. Might, if I lay an appropriate blood sacrifice at her feet. Happily, said blood sacrifice is not going to be too long in coming, because who pops up but the enemy Hatsuharu? Now, he is at 4.8 kilometers. If I break cover at this point, he's gonna see me. So, taking a risk here. Accelerate away, break cover. I'm detected, they know where I am. Dump 1, dump 2, turn away. The Hatsuharu is also turning. We've lit each other up, and, well, we've got a Fuso and a Gneisenau providing fire support to me, so the Hatsuharu doesn't want to eat anything. Luckily, the Nicholas and the Kirov both fire short, dump my third tube as a going away present. Now, what do you think the odds are that Hatsuharu is going to sail around the corner and eat a torpedo? I mean, he knows I'm there, he knows I'm running away.
Enemy destroyer foundered.
Is anyone even surprised anymore? First theme of today's video, ladies and gentlemen, aside from the fact that this was the only decent game I've had in a few days, blind corner, Japanese destroyer equals torpedoes. Handle with extreme caution and do not simply nose round. It should also be noted, looking at the minimap, that the Hatsuharu had actually seen the torpedoes and tried to turn away. I suspect he might have been on the A-hull. Lesson number 2 from today, as our Nicholas friend so amply demonstrates, turn into torpedo salvos, not away from them if you get one coming perpendicular to you, because that is actually safer, as counterintuitive as it might seem. So, 2 enemy destroyers gone, we've now got a colossal stealth advantage. However, our Bliskovice is in trouble. Adam CDE over on the right there has dumped his smoke and is running like blazes. He might just squeak away from there if he's lucky, but he's got an enemy spotter overhead that's giving him away. Dump some torpedoes at the Molotov. Face on, bad shot, but I had to dump and turn at that point or we were going to lose him. The Molotov luckily was aiming at the Bliska. Now, I'm not sure whether it was Hydro or the spotter that betrayed him to his death, but it didn't matter. Our Bliska is gone. I'm the only destroyer left in the game. Guessed wrong on which way the Molotov was going to turn. He goes left and Torpedo beats his way out of trouble, and the Bayern's just going to find a gap in that salvo anyway. At that stage, it's really not hard. Now, watch the minimap. Down in Echo 9, do you see that enemy cruiser that's dropped out of detection for a moment? Yeah, well, I didn't. And look which way I'm sailing, straight towards him, and oh looky, it's fair to say that at this point I, well, may have had a slight rush of adrenaline to the bowels. No matter, torpedo tubes were reloaded, dump the torpedoes, sail away, get extremely lucky that Clada 3440 was fixated on our Fuso, because by the time he sees the torpedoes and starts turning away again, always, always, always turn into an incoming torpedo salvo, ladies and gentlemen, unless you have very good cause not to. It's far too late, and that's 6 for 6. Well, technically it's 3 for 12, but who's counting? Actually, 3 for 18. That first salvo missed completely, didn't it? Second salvo. Who's counting? 3 hits officially registered, even if quite a few of them did mess up some wreckage. Flank threat dealt with, and it's back to hunting the battleships. Now remember, these guys know I'm here. The Bayern has already dodged 1 salvo from me, more by luck than judgment. The Molotov is sailing down the estuary channel and is about to run into a very nasty surprise in the shape of Sivret in the Gneisenau. There we go, and that's not going to take very long. He's got an even nastier surprise coming in the shape of those torpedo bombers from our carrier, but they don't do too much. And, well, our Hiryu was in fact aiming for the enemy Bayern of Mikrandi. Meanwhile, I'm setting up for a trick that I don't use too often because, well, destroyer captain, I tend to work on the maxim that speed is life. So why am I coming to a full stop? Okay, back to the minimap for the moment. That Bayern is sailing straight towards us. I don't have a good shot at him at the moment. However, when he clears this island, if he does clear the island, I am going to have a very good shot at his flank. Good enough, certainly, to get at least a few hits. Problem is, at the moment, I don't know which way he's gonna go. The Koenig is going west. The Bayern, yep, there we go. He's committing. He's going right. So turn, turn, turn. I'm relying on the spotting data from Lambo's sub here in his Fuso. Get the torpedoes onto bearing, and as a safety measure, pop smoke. Now, this isn't going to shield me forever. 2.3, 2.2, 2.1. Once we hit 2 kilometers, then he is going to detect me, smoke or no smoke, but it doesn't matter, because the torpedoes are in the water, and by the time he sees them, it's far, far too late to do anything about them. In fairness to him, there is not a lot he could have done there. If he'd gone left, it would have certainly delayed the inevitable. I had a marginal shot at best down the channel towards where H.R. Thomas was just then, but I would still have had a decent flanking shot and the time to set it up, and he'd have been broadside to the Fuso, and, well, the Sister of Misfortune does tend to be other people's misfortune if you let her get her, 12 14-inch guns on standby. But now let's see if I can set up for a repeat performance on the enemy New York. Come on, I need that spotting area. Nope, no, Krishko 268 is noping out of there. He's seen what happened to the Bayern. He doesn't want to be in line for a repeat performance. So I'm not going to get a decent shot at him. So back it up, get some steerage room, and then accelerate away, come back up to speed. Okay, right, gonna have to break the smoke cloud, of course, but I'm out of detection range. Of course, I could be cheeky and fire the guns, because, hey, why not? Little parting shot. 2 penetrations, 1 bounce, and a fire, which gives him a little fare thee well present to think about. Second salvo, sadly, doesn't do nearly as much. Another couple of pens on the superstructure, possibly the deck, and 2 more bounces, and he gets the fire under control, which pretty much wraps up my contribution for the game. While we've been mucking about on the eastern side, over on the western side, the enemy team basically folded, like the proverbial pack of cards. Although it has been noted that you have to separate the cards out one by one to get them to fold. Trying to fold an entire pack of cards at once, trust me, it doesn't work. Last real issue of the day is actually Herr Thomas in the Koenig, who is trying to salvage the game in really the only way that he could, which is by capping. Unfortunately for him, there's our Fuso in the cap circle, and I'm closing as well. Oh, and our Hiryu is lining up her fighters and bombers for another strike as well. So the question really is, who's going to get him first? Well, those Nakajimas are going to have the first shot, that much is certain. In they go. Bombs on target, torpedoes away, 4 in the water. He can't really turn and is lucky only to eat 2 because of the close range. I dump my own torpedoes. He's evaded once, so he'll be trying to straighten out and recover himself. His attention's actually on Lambo's sub, courtesy of the gunfire he's just taken. And at this stage, it's really just a question of who's going to finish him off. Is it going to be my Type 92s or Lambo sub's guns? He's on 6,500, 6,000, 5,500. He's even taking high X from the Kamikaze, and it's the Fuso that gets the final kill. Right before 2 of my torpedoes smack him in the side and complete the job. Which pretty much wrapped it up for this game. The only thing left was the New York, who had very sensibly noped out of my ambush a couple of minutes earlier. Unfortunately, he had noped right into the guns of 2 of our battleships, 1 of our cruisers, and indeed a 3rd battleship down in Iona 5. Almost clout the Fuso here, but luckily I managed to dodge him. I didn't need anything else on my insurance record from today's game. And from here on in, it's pretty much game over. I mean, that New York would have to be doing extremely well to outfight a Gneisenau on its own, never mind a Gneisenau and a Koenig. Needless to say, he's not going to outfight them. So, the moral of today, ladies and gentlemen, Japanese destroyers and blind corners are a bad combination if you're on the enemy team. I have been Yusrul, and that has been World of Warships. I am going to take a look at the British cruisers at some point, but I need to get some more time with them, and I definitely want to play with the Caledon, because that is the first point at which the line really starts to come together. That's where you get your torpedoes. Until then, farewell.